Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Best Words. 2020 saw the rise of the Cuomo sexual, someone who was exceptionally attracted to his aura of competence during COVID. Here we are a year later, and Cuomo is resigning. So, what went wrong? I have always been pretty skeptical of Cuomo. I don't like how he handled the MTA. If you're in the know, you may know that he essentially treated the MTA like an ATM and rated it for all sorts of goodies upstate. During COVID, despite his projection of competence, he sent people. We're just going to patch this in. During COVID, despite his projection of competence, he had a nursing home scandal where he sent sick people into nursing homes that led to more deaths. And of course, now we come to the fact that he's a serial sexual harasser. Now, next week, we're going to have Erica Vladimir on the show. She was one of the co-founders of the Sexual Harassment Working Group and someone who has done a lot to clean up the culture of sexual harassment in Albany. But here we're going to talk today a little bit about what has happened to Cuomo, why, and how it's going to be kind of perceived in the meaty middle of the political spectrum.
Yeah, along with the transit thing that you mentioned, New York State is a very odd, it's in a peculiar place because we have upstate, Long Island, New York City, which are all basically feel like different universes when you enter into each one. So I think that most people don't really understand how the MTA works around here and how little the mayor has to do with the MTA. And it's really all controlled by somebody, 200 miles away up in Albany. And Cuomo in this instance, had been using it kind of as a piggy bank, like you were saying, to get some pet projects done back upstate. And upstate's very red. There's way more red counties than blue counties upstate. And, it's odd when you're taking money kind of from this bastion of liberalism in New York City and then using that money upstate to kind of, I guess, make things look better than they really are up in that area.
Yeah, I mean, the most famous thing was he gave a loan to a ski resort. He basically propped up a ski resort with the MTA's repair fund. And it's like New York City is the cash cow, but guess what? If the trains don't run, it's not the cash cow. You can't have nice things upstate without a functioning New York City because, frankly, we pay for everything upstate and around the country. We are net payors into all the treasuries we partake in. But Cuomo has a really strong image in a lot of Democratic circles. One thing you heard frequently when women started coming forward with accusations of sexual harassment, there was something that people like to label it blue MAGA. They said this was a setup. These women were hired by Trump to destroy Cuomo. I interacted with a woman online from who knows where who said, well, look, now Lee Zeldin is going to become governor. We better watch out. It's like, okay, you're obviously not from New York. You think this MAGA maniac from, far east of Long Island has any chance of becoming governor just because he declared. But there was a lot of people questioning these women coming forward. There's a lot of older Democrats saying, well, that's just the world he's from. And that's the world that, they have no right to enforce he wasn't raping them. He was just touching them and saying inappropriate things. They got to thicken their skin. And I didn't hear that from Republicans. I heard that from Democrats. The idea that the women who did this were Trump plants is absurd. And it's absurd on its face, but I happen to know some of them. In fact, former guest of the audio podcast, Lindsey Boylan, who recently ran for Manhattan Borough president, was one of the first people to come out with accusations against Cuomo. So I believe her. But even if I didn't personally know one of the victims, I would believe them anyway. What kind of person accuses all these women of getting together, ruining their careers and their lives, and taking at great personal cost to destroy a man who is known to be vindictive if he didn't actually do it? It just doesn't compute. And these are the same people who would turn around in a different breath and say, believe victims. But Cuomo had a strong presence in the Democratic Party. He is not beloved on the left, but in sort of the middle of the party, and especially by people who are not overly political, but sort of have a a more superficial understanding. But they are Democrats. He's beloved. He's beloved in Western New York. He's popular. He's popular with the sort of consultant class. I mean, this is a guy with a lot of power, and this is a guy who is known to treat his enemies not so differently than Trump treats his enemies. So coming forward with accusations of sexual impropriety would be something that they would did at huge cost to themselves with no really perceivable upside. And here we are today. Cuomo has said he will resign effective in 14 days. That's going to be about 8 days from when this show airs. How do you think this is going to play out?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad he's resigning. I think he should. You are right when you say that people that don't pay attention to politics as much might not have as much reason to hate Cuomo as people like us who do pay attention more, and we follow the scandals that have happened over the years, and we understand just kind of how corruption kind of has played a lot of a part in his administration, throughout the years.
I mean,
Um,
this is a man who fired ethics investigators because they were looking into him.
Yeah, and most people probably don't know that. I think because we were ground zero during COVID. I've never been a Cuomo fan. In the beginning, when everything was kind of happening and nobody knew what was going on, you kind of got the sense like, okay, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's making people feel better about this. He's, mandating masks and everything. It seemed like he was doing what a governor should have been doing. But behind the scenes, he had these nursing home things and falsely reporting numbers because he said Trump was going to use it as a weapon. I mean, what does Trump not use it as a weapon? I never buy the I needed to lie at this point because if I didn't, then my enemies would have made me look bad. I'm like, okay, the Republicans, especially Trump, they're gonna attack you over anything anyway. It doesn't matter, what you did. And then what happens is when it comes around full circle, it just bites you more on the ass. And then with this whole sex scandal thing, I mean, the guy's an obvious creep. Uh, he just recently he was posting on Twitter. I think he was posting like pictures of Barack Obama and George Bush like hugging victims of Sandy and Katrina, and he's like, I'm just Italian. That's what I do. I hug people. I kiss them on the cheeks. I mwah mwah." And I'm like, yeah, okay, dude. I mean, I get that, but the accusations against you are more like groping under shirts and using your position of power to force a officer onto your like personal guard duty team when she wasn't even technically qualified for it. So I'm not so sure, man. Now, how it's going to play out, I'm happy that he's stepping down. I think he obviously should. And I think that's really a key difference between Democrats and Republicans is that they keep people like Gates, they vote people in like Trump, and we don't want people like Cuomo if they're doing those sort of things at all.
No, and as an Italian American, I'm very upset. I didn't know about our exemption from sexual harassment laws.
You get special treatment.